friends, welcome back. In the previous videos, we've been talking about different machine learning algorithms and how we can implement them in Python from scratch, right? And to test our implemented algorithms, we were always using either some data sets from Python, like we were importing, for example, the Iris dataset or something, or we downloaded some clean data sets from the Kaggle website or something, right? But unfortunately, that is not always the case. In real world programming, most of the times, you're actually given a data set that is not super clean and not just ready to be used. So you need to do some data cleaning yourself, right? Before you can actually start programming and like implementing your machine learning algorithms. But this is what we want to talk about in this video, right? We will be using Pandas library. This is what this library is made for, and it is absolutely amazing. So we will be using that library to do some data cleaning. I downloaded two data sets from the Kaggle website. I will put a link in the description so that you can easily access those. These are basically the same data sets. One of them is clean, the other one is not clean. So if you look at the clean data set, you will see that, for example, there is a column job title, salary estimate, and like you see how clean the numbers are, right? Like it's 137 to 171 and so on and so forth. And then like there is some columns like mean salary, max salary, average salary, stuff like that as well, right? But when you look at the unclean data set, you see that there is some extra columns, right? For example, this index column, that's extra. We didn't have it in the clean data set. And salary estimate, when we look at this, there are all these dollar signs in like K's, like 137 grand a year or something. And then like the class or ESD at the end. And like there is no mean max average for I don't know for the salary or something like that, right? The other difference is, if you pay attention, is that like there are different columns here that like AWS, like Amazon Web Services, Hadoop, Spark. These columns are basically created by looking into the main column. So like these are not extra data. These data are extracted from, the columns that you already have. So for example, for AWS, it looks at the job description column, right? And there's a job description column in here. And if it had the AWS in it, or Spark or Hadoop, it's just going to set this to 1, right? And I was looking at these data sets and comparing them. And I realized that, for example, if I look at the unclaimed data set and you look at the location of the job, right? For example, here, you will see that this job is a remote job, right? And in the claim data set, they actually got rid of this. So these are the things that we're talking about. Removing some columns, adding some columns, dropping some rows, editing the content of, for example, this element in here, or like the content of rows and columns, stuff like that. So this is what we will be talking about in this video. Okay, let's actually get started. What do we want to do? The first thing we need to do is to import pandas as PD. And then we want to load our data sets. So we just go data frame cleaned, for example, that equals PD dot read CSV. And the name of the CSV file, I have them here, so I'm just gonna copy the names. So I'm just gonna go here, and then data frame uncleaned, that's equal pandas that read CSV. And then this one would be the uncleaned data set, right? Okay, so these are the data sets. And the first step is to load the data sets, right? And we can actually like do something like, I don't know, like print, what am I doing? Okay, print data frame uncleaned dot columns, for example, right? To see the column names. And if I run this, just to make sure that like we've imported properly, and you can see the actual column names in here. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So the first step, well, when I say the first step, like there is no order, you can just like do them in whatever order that you want. But these are the things that you need to look for. So the first thing is to look for duplicates in rows. So I'm just going to define a data frame temp, and I'm going to say that this is basically a copy of the uncleaned data frame where we drop the duplicates, right? Sometimes in a data frame, like you have two or more exact rows. So this is not going to add anything to your knowledge about the data that you're dealing with. And it's just going to be extra data to process, and you don't want that. So you can simply use this drop duplicates function to get rid of all of those. And then the other thing that I wanted to also tell you is that you can actually get the size of the data frame, like how many rows you have, and that's just as easy as length of data frame, for example, cleaned dot index, right? It just like indexes the number of rows, and then like you can basically do the same thing if I for uncleaned and df temp. So if I run this, you will see that it says the clean data frame has 660 rows, but the other they have 672 rows. Although we use this drop duplicates, it's not reducing the size. It basically means that there is no duplicates simply in your data frame. Good. But as I said in the beginning of the video, for example, they were removing the rows in which the location is set to remote, right? So we want to do that too. It's just like a good way to know, like if you're adding or removing anything, like just like know this, that like you can use these to get the size of your data frame. Anyway, let's start with doing that. Let's look for the columns in which the location is set to remote, and then like let's get rid of those rows, right? So I want to get the ID or the index of those rows. So I'm just going to go remote IDs. That's an empty list, right? And I go for I and job location, for example, in enumerate of df temp, for example, dot location. Because if you see, we have like a column named here. I'm highlighting it here, location. So I'm looping through all the different rows in that column, right? And I'm saying if job log, which is the content of that column, right? If that equals remote, then remote index, that append I. So that would be the actual row number, right, of that the column that has the job location set to remote. And then once that's done, we can just go print, for example, remote index, just to make sure that it's working properly. And if I run that, it says, okay, row 16, for example, that's like a remote position. Let's look at our data. So this is the unclean data. That's what we want. And when we look at 16, it is actually not set to remote, but 18 is. So this is not a mistake, right? You'll have to realize that the first row is the name of the column. So we are not counting that. And then like we're indexing from 0. So row 16 is actually numbered 18 because like we have an extra row here, and then like everything here is like from 1, but we were 0 indexing. So this is working, right? So we have the indexes of all the rows in which the location is set to remote. And now we want to use these to drop those rows. And dropping those rows is super easy. We can basically do something like df temp, right? The drop and then we can go uh, index equals uh, remote index, right? So basically what this command does, it looks at the indexes that are in this list and drop those rows, right? The other thing you need to do is to go in place equals true, because sometimes it just keeps a copy of the old version and does not update it. But if you do this, it just gets rid of them, no problem whatsoever. And then like you can actually get the number of rows now, see if it's dropped anything or not. So if I run this, and you will see that previously we were getting 672 rows, and now it's down to 666. Amazing. So we learned how to, remove the duplicates and then remove the rows that we don't want. You can basically do the same thing, right? You can look at different columns and look for some criteria that you're looking for, and then like save the rows that meet that criteria, and then like remove them. So that's that. We learn how to remove rows. The next thing that we can do is to remove some columns, right? As I showed you, the unclean data, it had the first column was the index column, but the clean data didn't really have that because it doesn't really add anything. It's just the index. So we might as well get rid of that. And getting rid of that is like super easy. You can just go df temp basically equals df temp the drop, and you can just go column equals the name of the column, right? The name of the column was index, right? As you can see in here, I'm highlighting it down here. So index, and it's just supposed to get rid of that. And once you did that, you can get the columns again to see if that's actually gone or not, right? So I'm just gonna bring this guy over, be like, hey, drop that column for me and print the number of columns. Let me see what you have. If I do this, he will say that the first column is job title now. There is no index column. So far, so good. We learned how to remove columns and then remove rows as well. The other thing that we want to do, look, we talked about how they had, for example, the AWS column, right? The column that they looked into, for example, the job description, and if it had AWS keyword in it, they're just going to set another column and like set it to 1 or 0 if it didn't have, right? Let's actually do that. How can we do that? So I'm just going to define an AWS list, set it to all zeros, like, and it's an empty list. And I'm going to go for job description, JD, for example, in data frame temp, right? And what's the column name? It's job description. Let's actually bring it from here. So it's job description. I'm just going to copy this guy, bring it over. So for job description in that, so this is going to be that long string. So if I open this is unclean and the job description. So if I expand this, finally it opened the job description, and you can see like there's a string job description. We're looking into this string, right? So this is what we want to do. We just want to go if, for example, AWS, right? This is the keyword that we're looking for. If this keyword is in job description, right? Then I'm just going to go AWS to append 1. And if it's not, then AWS to append 0, right? And then, so we have a list of 1s and 0s. If it's 1, it means that the job description, like the content of the job description column has the keyword AWS in it. And if it's 0, it means that it doesn't have it. So we have that list, and now we want to add that as a new column to our data frame. So all I need to do is to go data frame temp, right? And basically the name of the column that I want to give it the name AWS, can be anything you want. And the values for that column would be AWS. Like this is the list that we added. Now, if we print the column names again, right? Let's see if we've added anything. So if I run that, you will see that, well, we got rid of the index, which is good. It's not here anymore. And now we have an extra column here named AWS, right? You can do that for, different keywords as well. It's going to be just like this. And okay, so this is the next thing that I wanted to talk about, how we can create some column from an already existing column. The other thing that we need to do is we talked about for example, the salary estimate color, right? So if I go here and the salary estimate color, it's in this format. Let's say that we want to edit this. We want to get rid of the dollar signs, the Glassdoor ESD thingy. And then once we have this clean and ready, we can have, if I open the other one. So once we have it in this format, then we want to use that to have this column, mean salary, max salary, average salary, and stuff like that. Let's see how we can do that now. So the way we can do that, we can go, let's actually print some of the data entries first. I'm just going to go print data frame temp, right? And from salary estimate column, right? And then I want rows, let's say, for example, 28 to 53, right? And if I run this, it says this is what you get, right, in this format. Okay, cool. So we have some different values and stuff like that, and we can start playing with that. So I want to say that df temp, right, I want to select this column, right? And I want to say this is equal. I want to modify this. So I'm just going to get this. And be it's the same one, but string dot replace, right? I want to replace whatever, get the content of, every row in this column and replace. What do I want to replace? I want to replace space, bracket open, Glassdoor, blah, 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 until we close the bracket. So I want to say replace this string with an empty string. I don't want that anymore, right? And then you can obviously print this again to see what's changed. Let's get rid of that now. And if I run this, you will see that it's much cleaner now. It got rid of all of those, and it's some numbers with dollar signs and the K for this many grand. You can basically keep repeating the same thing, right? You can copy this and be okay, now I want to get rid of the dollar signs. If you saw a dollar sign, remove it, replace it with an empty string. If you saw, for example, K, do the same thing for that as well. And if you run this now, you will get these values. So these are the clean numbers, right? It's a silver string. We don't really care about it, but at least it's in a good format. It's 137 to 171, 75 to 131, and so on and so forth. So this matches with what we expect, right? If I open the claimed one and we look at the salary estimate, this is in the exact format that we want. But now let's say we want to use this and extract these data, the minimum, the maximum, and then do some calculation and compute the average salary. This is what we want to do now. So I'm just going to define two, because we're adding two more columns, right? So I'm just going to go mean salary, right? That's an empty list. Max salary, that's also an empty list for now. And I'm just going to go for mean salary, max salary in df. That's actually copy from here. In df of df temp salary estimate. So we're getting the content, right, of that column, and you're iterating through all the different rows, right? And I'm saying this string dot split. So if you see the format, like we have a number dash the second number. So if I split it with the dash sign, right? Basically all this command does is to split the string that you have into, like in this case, two parts, the part that comes before the dash and the part that comes after it. And now I'm saying basically these two parts are this and that. Now that I have values, I can simply go mean salary, that append, mean S, and then max salary, that append max S. And then like you can obviously do the averages. Will like define an empty list, and well, you have to, like, these are the strings, right? If you want to calculate the average, you'll have to get these values, which you already have them, convert them into int, which is basically just calling the int function on it, and then do the average. So it would be int of mean S plus int of max S divided by 2. That would be your average, right? And now that you have these, you can basically go def temp, right, of the name of the column that you want. I want to call it mean salary, just to match with the clean, data frame, right? So mean salary, that would be the thing that you calculated here, mean salary, and df temp of max salary, that would be your calculated max salary, right? And okay, cool. And then like we can actually do the same thing as well. Like we can print the values just to make sure that we have them right. So if I go here and let's say that I want to see the same values for mean salary, right? And if I run this, you will see that it's like 137.75. Like I'm comparing this with the mean values to make sure that I got the right values, which seems to be working perfectly fine. Okay, that's about it. We learned how we can remove some columns, add columns, remove rows that we don't want, and edit the content of each, row and columns, each cell basically in your data set. That's all I wanted to talk about today. And now, finally, once you're happy, obviously, with your, cleaned data frame, the version of the clean that you have, we can basically save it in a file. You can just go df temp dot to CSV, right? And you're saving it as a new CSV file. And I'm just going to call it, for example, my cleaned data science job.csv, for example. And not separator, you don't have to set the separator. It has like a default value, but I like to separate it by -t, which is like a tab, sorry, /t, which is a tab, and that's about it. So if I run this now, it's done, everything is saved. And now if I BNLS, you will see that I have my clean data, my cleaned data set or data science job CSV here. Hopefully this video was useful to you. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so that you won't miss the next videos, and you will also support us this way. Thank you for watching this video. See you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.